So today I'm gonna make a grilled pork chop with a Knob Creek bourbon mustard sauce. So when I cook with bourbon, I like to use the bourbon in as many ways as I can in the recipe. It just accentuates the flavor and it just intensifies it. So in this pork chop recipe, I'm actually gonna use the bourbon two ways. I'm gonna use it as a marinade, and I'm also gonna use it in the sauce. The first thing I wanna do, whenever we use bourbon in a sauce or a marinade, you wanna cook off the alcohol. And it's a really simple thing. I got the grill on really high right now, and all I'm doing is I got bourbon in a small pot, and I want to just cook it off. Two reasons I'm doing this. I want to burn off the alcohol because I don't want the alcohol to actually get into the flavor of it. No one likes to taste alcohol in the sauce. The other thing that I'm going to do is, as it reduces, it's going to intensify the flavor of the bourbon. So really, I'm just going to take that and leave it for like 3-4 minutes, and it'll be ready to go. In the meantime, I'm gonna cut up all my vegetables. All right, so I've got some fresh, beautiful shiitake mushrooms. Then I got some Brussels sprouts. So I've got 3 different kinds of peppers. I'm gonna make nice, big cuts. And then last but not least, I've got a shallot. All right, so you can tell my bourbon's reduced. It's nice and smoky. Smells great. I'm gonna throw that into my marinade bowl. So what I'm trying to do with this marinade, it's a really simple marinade, and I'm trying to like use the flavors of bourbon and not compete with it, but just kind of like add to it. So I don't want to get too complicated. I've got a little bit of bourbon that's reduced, and then I'm going to add a little bit of soy sauce, because the one thing that bourbon doesn't have is salt, right? So we need salt. And I'm going to add a little bit of Worcester, which is just going to add to the sort of fermented flavor. And I got a little brown. It's really important to use brown sugar because it sort of, again, it mirrors that caramel note, that sort of sweet note in the bourbon. So a little bit of brown sugar goes in there. And then a clove or 2 of garlic goes right in there. I'm going to mix that up. And the cool thing about this marinade is this is the marinade that I'm using for my pork chop. But a little bit of it actually will go a long way to flavoring these vegetables as well. So I'm gonna toss a little bit on the vegetables too. And then, look at these. I got these beautiful pork chops. Nice fat layer, really marbleized, beautiful. And I'm just gonna let it sit in that marinade. And this marinade's strong. Like, you really don't have to marinate it that long, like 20 minutes and you're golden. But what's really important is you wanna flip it every few minutes. Keep flipping it because you want both sides and the entire surface of the pork chop to sit in this marinade. In the time that it takes to cook the veggies, the pork chops will be perfectly marinated and we're ready to finish. But before I do, I'm gonna think ahead to make my bourbon mustard sauce. I'm gonna put a little bit more bourbon into a pot. Same thing, I'm just gonna leave it on the back of that grill there and just let it reduce a little bit. I got some grapeseed oil. I'm gonna toss it all over my veggies. Got a little salt, a little pepper. All right, so I'm taking my veggies and I'm just gonna place them on this upper cooking rack. It's time to put the pork chops on the grill. So I got my Rider Deluxe on sear mode. I got it all the way up high, and I got hickory pellets in there because I really want a nice, aggressive flavor with the pork chops. And all I'm gonna do now is take the pork chop, I'm gonna kind of let the marinade sort of drip off. I'm gonna go right in the middle there. My vegetables are cooking on the upper rack. My pork chops are searing on the grill. I got my bourbon reduced, and I'm gonna add a little bit of chicken stock. And a little bit of heavy cream. Give it a quick little stir. Now put it in the back of the stove. Let that reduce. A lot of home cooks make the mistake of churning your meat too much. You really don't have to. You're gonna leave it on one side, let the grill do the work. You can see how it's starting to boil and sizzle up there. You want that to happen. All right, I'm ready to flip. You see how it's getting nice and dark over here and caramelized? I'm ready to flip. But slowly, look at that. Look at that beautiful signature honeycomb grill marks. All right, so I got my pork chops off to the side. I don't want them to overcook. I'm gonna go down to about 300 degrees. I'm gonna change it to smoke mode. I'm gonna shut the door, and I'm gonna wait 3-4 minutes, and the pork chops will be ready. I'm gonna grab this beautiful pork chop right here. I'm gonna put it right on that plate. I'm gonna take some of my nicely charred vegetables. Everything smells and looks beautiful. And last but not least, this sort of pungent, spicy note of the mustard and the sweetness of the bourbon is going to combine to give you an amazing sauce over the charred pork chop and the grilled vegetables. So beautiful. Enjoy.